want to address today is how do you know if something is true? Now, this is one of the most important questions you can ask, and you will have to ask yourself this again and again as you go through life. The short version is I, as usual, prefer to take a subjective perspective here, which means that I'm assuming that reality is primarily made of consciousness rather than physical matter. So rather than us being conscious beings inside physical vessels, instead, I'm assuming that the universe itself is consciousness and then physicality occurs within that. And that includes our bodies. You know, our bodies are really just animated by mind, you could say. Perhaps that's not the best way to put it. The simplest way to state it is that this is a dream. You know, you are the dreamer of your dream here. And so when you have a dream at night, that whole dream is occurring within your subconscious mind. You know, it's all in your brain, as you might say. And the physical environment that you interact with in your dream exists inside your subconscious. So I'm taking that dream model and I'm applying it to all of reality, and I'm assuming that essentially reality as a whole works as a dream. So that's like, so for me, that means that all of my life experience basically is a dream. And the place I'm in right now, that's just a place inside of the dream. So that is the subjective perspective. It's basically assuming that life is a dream. So you can row your boat to that. That was cheesy. Anyway, so how do you know if something is true? Well, the short version, based on that model of reality, is whether it works, and also whether your explanation of that thing makes sense and is strong and solid. So, well, there's really three ways of knowing whether something is true. As I just said, it's whether it works, whether you have a solid explanation of it, and also whether it appeals to your own higher intelligence. In other words, whether it feels right to you and makes sense to you both logically and emotionally. The basic premise here is that the way to know whether something is true, it all has to start with you. And, you know, at this point I'm talking, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about a subjective model of reality or an objective one, really. It's, you know, you can, it makes sense. The only way you can know something is true is, the key words are, you know. So it's about you and your ability to know. You know, the way our world operates, or at least the way we've been taught it operates, is through this lens of the scientific method, where you have to write a hypothesis and then test the hypothesis and put it through the fire and find all the holes in it, and in the end, whatever remains, you know, we have to replicate the results again and again and again. And if we can do that, then perhaps there's some truth to the experiment and the ideas behind it. But if we can't replicate the ideas, so much for those ideas. And basically, what that, what the scientific model, um, what the scientific model, I don't think I'm even saying the right words anymore. What that proposes, that view of reality, is scientific method. There we go. What the scientific method suggests is that to know the truth, uh, we must be able to consent to it. We must be able to prove that again and again, and it must be so that All people can see this truth, and we must all add a piece to it, and we each have to review each other's piece. And once we finally get to this place where it's almost impossible to disagree, but maybe not 100%, then we have found the truth. And what's interesting is really that's kind of how it works in a subjective model too. Well, it's a little different. So we are all adding a piece to the thing in a way, and we do all have to review each other's piece. But in the subjective model, it's not really about each person having to go through the thing. It's more about you as the individual dreamer and conscious being having to review each individual piece. So rather than us being concerned about each person having a say, it's more about you being able to comprehend each piece in a complete and cohesive way. So, this stuff is so funny, but it's awesome. Anyway, so how do you know if something is true? As I said, it has to work. That's fairly straightforward. It has to, and the second thing I said is you have to be able to have a strong explanation for it. This is the part I really wanted to talk about here. And I know I haven't looked at the camera much, I'm so sorry. Okay. So, basically what I want to tell you is that you can know everything in your head. you you experience what you know. It's not the other way around. People always say, "Oh, if you want to gain knowledge, you need experience first." It's like, no, 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 no. That's not how it works. You experience what you know. You cannot experience anything that you cannot imagine, and you cannot experience anything that you are certain is impossible. Because if you weren't certain that it was impossible, then assuming you had infinite time, you would eventually experience it. But if you never experience it, and you have infinite time, then you probably don't are 100% certain that it's not possible. So, so, like I said, you can only experience what you know, and you do experience what you know. And you can know everything in mind first before you experience it out in the world. So, if the case is that you see what you believe rather than you believe what you see, and you experience what you know rather than you know after you've experienced something, well, then how do you know what you know? How do you know if what you say you know is true, for instance? How do you know it is functional? How do you know that it works? Well, as I've been saying here over and over again, what you want is a comprehensive model of reality going on in your head. So you want to be able to grasp the whole thing, recreate the whole thing mentally, and each piece of it has to work together in such a way that it works. I say work together, but really the challenge is just getting it to work very much in the first place. And one thing here is, there's sort of a hierarchy of truth. So this thing is a little more true than this thing, and this thing is more true than that one, and so on and so forth. And I do like to think that there ultimately are absolute truths, this is more true than that. But then then 10 years later we find out, well, there's another step beyond it, and there's actually this other whole field of study we have to look into in order to really get a more complete understanding of what we're looking at here. So it's like we human knowledge and understanding has been forever growing in concentric circles that surround one another. So you make one circle. I know I went a little prematurely here. So you make one circle, and then you make another circle around that one, and then there's another one around that one, and then there's a really big one that you can't even see right now, and it just keeps going, and those circles just keep getting bigger. And really, in a way, each circle is identical in structure to the last, but the details change a little bit. And of course, as I said, they keep getting bigger. So it's kind of this fractal process we go through, where we keep going through a circle, but each one is a little bigger and a little richer than the last one. So the point I am making about having good explanations here is you have to be able to believe the things that you say and claim. That sounds very obvious, but even in a reality, a subjective reality, if you will, where you're essentially the one creating it, you can't create anything that you don't believe is possible. And the reason we need, therefore, good explanations is because these good explanations make things believable. And when something is believable, then it can happen. And then it can work, and it can be reality. And so that's why we need good explanations. And what we need, ultimately, is a way to explain reality as completely as possible in all of its aspects, in physical health, and ecology, and mathematics, and construction, and weather patterns, and sexuality, and everything. Everything ultimately has to be included somehow. So your explanations for each piece of reality, ultimately, you want all of those explanations to work together somehow, because they all are inextricably related, and it's hard to look at the big picture all at once. And so that's why we have these linear lifetimes, where we experience time as being from one moment to the next. Because if we didn't have that, then we could not experience growth, and we would not be able to see ourselves advancing and going from one circle to the next one. And basically the reason we're here is so we can experience. And in order to experience, you have to have linear time. So that's why we're here on Earth. So we experience what we know. And a big part of that experience is actively engaging in what we claim to know. And these are these knowledge pursuits like science, philosophy, logic, just plain thinking, really. We engage in these knowledge pursuits in order to actively decide what it is we know, and therefore what it is we are going to experience, and what it is that we do experience. We are always redefining life as we go through it. So the new knowledge discovery you make today will redefine everything that you have experienced up to this point. And that's why, as I've written before, I like to say that the past is ever changing, while the present has yet to be. Because each new thing that you discover or decide about reality, that redefines everything in the past. So no story is ever set in stone, because you will probably comprehensive understanding of reality is that each piece is inseparable from each other, and they all have to work together. And the better the pieces work together, the stronger your model of reality. And the stronger your model of reality, the more certain you can be of yourself and your own judgments. And this is very important because if you can't trust yourself at all, then you're gonna be a mess. And like, I'm gonna like tip back in my car seat right now, and I'm gonna like, I don't know, have white white powder coming out of my nose, and I'll be like, oh my god, I'm such a mess. I can't trust myself with anything, so I'm just gonna let the world carry me. And yeah, man, yeah. But when you can't trust yourself, that is when you get to experience yourself as being intelligent. And of course, the more that you are certain of yourself and you can experience yourself as being intelligent, the more the world opens up to you, and you can become more like one of these Steve Jobs like characters. I'll say where I mentioned Steve Jobs because he liked to talk about how you don't have any specific quotes, but he would say things like how you don't give customers what they want. Like, you don't ask them what they want and then deliver it to them. They don't know what they want until you show it to them. So you make the thing, and then the people want it. So it's stuff like that. It's where you become more certain of yourself, and you can create reality more deliberately. And rather than just reacting to things, you're initiating them. You're like creating from the ground up and just putting it out into the world. And you become this big influence on the planet. And the reason you could do that is that you are certain enough of yourself that you can actually experience and express your own intelligence. And being certain of yourself requires that you have a solid mental model of reality. And a solid mental model of reality requires good explanations. And I will note quickly that this whole good explanations thing I got from an author named David Deutsch. He wrote a book called The Beginning of Infinity, which is absolutely wonderful. He's a physicist, but that's not really one of my main fields, although I've studied it. But it's if you like my stuff, you gotta read The Beginning of Infinity. It's awesome. So, as I was saying, yes, you need good explanations to have a solid mental model of reality. And again, each piece is relative to the others. So the way that any one piece of your model of reality works is relative to all of the other pieces that you have. And this is why I have sort of resisted becoming a specialist in any one field. It's because I feel a greater calling to, I will say it again, understand reality comprehensively. It's like, no, I'm not gonna just have this tunnel vision and drill down onto any one particular subfield. I want to have a strong comprehension of all of it. And in that way, I will be able to have insights that perhaps other people won't have access to. And, it'll be sort of a fuller and somewhat different more way of knowing. I mean, let's face it, all of us, whether you're a specialist or more of a generalist, we all have to interact with all aspects of reality anyway. You can't help it. It's like if you specialize in quantum physics, you still have to interact with ecology and sociology and all the rest of it. So, there's no escaping reality. That's what makes it so awesome. So it's like, okay, if I can't escape any of it, it behooves me to understand all of it then, doesn't functioning of one aspect is relative to all of the others. So each of these components is connected to the others, and that creates this somewhat complicated looking web where each piece has a little line you can draw to it to each other piece. So there's like a line between this piece and that piece, and you know, it just goes on and on. There's one line between each piece, basically, and that creates the web. And the web is the matrix, and the matrix is where we are right now. And we're making the matrix, and we are also infinitely subject to it. It's a rather fascinating creator slash experiencer relationship that we have with reality. So, yeah, you know, things can get, you can go pretty deep here. You can try to logically map all of this out. You can do your darndest to drill down on every detail as best as you can. But what I have found up to this point in my life is that rather than trying to hammer out each field one at a time, I have found it more effective and also fulfilling to just go through the circles. It's like, okay, so in the circle, you know, first we're gonna go through technology, then health, then career, then money, then relationships, then spirituality, and then we're gonna come back around to technology again. And then now we're in the new circle, and now we're gonna go through the circle again. So technology, whatever order we had, spirituality, relationships, career, money, etc., etc. And each time we go around a new circle, it will get more details and it'll be richer. But as I said earlier, each circle is ultimately the same in structure as the last. So here's a very small example. It's my second semester of college, which was really just community college. I studied cybersecurity, so there was that little piece of the circle. And then I took the fall semester off that year, so I didn't go to school for 8 months. And in those 8 months, I didn't really think about technology much at all, let alone programming and computer security. And then when I went back, you know, I continued that major, so then I was on that piece of the puzzle again. But this time I returned to that major with new insights and ideas and a new overall model of reality that I had picked up in the 8 months that I wasn't in school. So that made my experience of the field of cybersecurity very different from the first time that I studied it. And again, that's not a very rich example, but it makes the basic point, which is that you are bound to revisit certain subjects over and over again, and each time that you do, you know, you never step in the same river twice. It'll be a little different each time. But it's good to give yourself breaks from each field and then to return to it, because you'll return to it with new insights. And, you know, you can just keep doing this over and over again with the same series of fields, and each time you'll be bringing in insights from all of the other fields that you went to before this one. And, you know, as time goes on, you keep building this fuller picture of reality where as you keep going, the fields all keep getting more and more connected, and you are seeing this very elegant picture unfold where, you know, the basic truths of each field almost seems to be the same, and the overall truths of life itself become clearer to you as you study each field and get deeper into each one and see the connections between all of them. Then the truths of the complete life itself reveal themselves to you more and more. And again, as I said earlier, you already know all of this. You're experiencing it linearly though, to basically enable yourself to have a fuller understanding. And also, it's really just about experience for its own sake, because experience is the deliciousness of life on Earth. You know, if we couldn't experience anything, we would essentially be in heaven already, where everything, every thought you have manifests immediately and automatically. But instead, here things are slower and more compressed and more, they're clunkier. So you have to be more deliberate about your intentions, and you have to be persistent and diligent and follow through with them over time. And you know, it's that over time aspect that makes experience, and that's what makes experience also so fulfilling and just intrinsically beautiful and amazing to experience. Is, you know, the fact that you have to be deliberate about an intention you have if you want it to come true. And this, it becomes more true as your intentions get bigger and you want to influence the world more and more. So, the point there is that it's the fact that we have to be so deliberate on this earth, in this present existence of ours, in order to get anywhere, that having to be deliberate is actually very pleasurable. And the reason it is that we're conscious beings, and of course we came here to experience that we're conscious beings, because that is the highest truth. So, the experience of our own intelligence is very gratifying. So, the original question of this video was, how do you know anything? How do you know what you know? Well, the third and final piece of that, as I said before, is that you kind of just know. It just appeals to your internal intelligence. It makes sense both intuitively and intellectually. It fits in with your larger model of reality, and it also just feels right to you. And it has to meet both those requirements. It can't just be intuitive, and it also can't be just intellectual, because those things don't work well on their own, and they don't function on their own. They either work together or they don't work at all. So, so how do you know what you know? It works. You have a sound explanation of it, or you can't have one. And it makes sense both logically and emotionally. And overall, you know something when it leads you to a fuller understanding of everything. You know, whereas on the other hand, if a certain notion or idea degrades your understanding of everything, or it makes it harder for you to be conscious and to explore reality and to know who you really are, then then it's not true. You know, if anything that prevents you from being conscious, or at least from being more conscious, which is to say that it prevents you from growing as a conscious being, then it's not true. That is the simple answer to the question, and I hope that after all of this explaining, that makes sense. One more thing. The lights from overhead. I'm not an angel in heaven. about leaving the lights on in the car for 30 to 60 minutes or whatever, because I used to sleep in the car, and when I'd hang out at night, I'd leave the lights on for a while, and it'd be fine. I never had problems with the battery, but this thing is freaking worse, so I don't have to worry much about it at all. But yes, that is my ending to this video. Just to take a load off a little bit, because I know that was heavy. But yes, thank you for sticking through that, and may you exercise your internal intelligence and use that intelligence to take on the world and kick some butt, but rather than advocate violence, I'll tell you to, instead of kick some butt, I'll tell you to make some love instead. So, may you